Hello, my name is Ron Marasco, and I am at the parish of St. Andrews in Kent, Connecticut, and I'm here to talk about somebody who was born on the Feast of St. Andrews in 1729, Samuel Seabury. He's known for being the first American bishop to the Episcopal Church. He was educated at Yale, and he was a priest in Westchester, and at that time, he began to do a lot of writing that was in favor of the Church of England, but also against the American Revolution. And he wrote under the name A.W. Farmer, which stood for A Westchester Farmer. And a lot of these broadsides became controversial and very well known. I would venture to say that he's probably the only person in the lectionary of Episcopal luminaries that actually appears in the musical Hamilton, and has a song where he says, you know, heed not the rabble who scream revolution, they have not your interest at heart, to which the crowd of the chorus say to him, oh God, tear this dude apart. So, he's in Hamilton. And not only is he criticized in the musical Hamilton, but in his life, he really had it very, very difficult. This was not a popular position to have taken, and he suffered mightily for it. He was arrested, he was paraded through the streets, he was imprisoned. When people were looking for him, they went to his farm, they beat his children, plundered his house. So it was a very difficult period of time, and then of course, the revolution is over, and now what? He assumed he was just going to live a life of complete exile, but as can happen, the incipient church here in Connecticut had other ideas, and a group of people gathered to advance Samuel Seabury as a candidate for the first American bishop. It happened in Woodbury, just probably about a half hour's drive from where I'm standing right now, at a place called the Glebe House, one of these small little houses that became so important at a moment in history. And they elected him to go to England and become sanctioned as a bishop, which, as they say in the Glebe House, which they're very proud of, the phrase that they use, he was asked to go to London to argue before Parliament to become the first bishop in the New World, which was significant because it was a decision both about separation of church and state and also about religious tolerance. So he made the journey, he went to London, and he was not treated very well. They were, of course, at sort of at loggerheads for a lot of different reasons. It was an awkward time. They didn't know if America was technically foreign or not. So he found it very, very difficult. And he sent back a letter saying, I'm not finding anybody in this country that's willing to risk anything for the church. So what did he do? He went to Scotland. He made a very arduous journey, 500 miles over roads that weren't even roads, because Scotland understood what it was to be persecuted. They had been persecuted for being the Episcopal Church. And the people that have been persecuted often have empathy for those that have similarly been persecuted. And so on November 14th, the day that we celebrate and that's listed in here in the Book of Common Prayer, he was installed in a little chapel in Aberdeen as the first bishop in America. And this is something that I think in particular Connecticut can be very proud of. He spent the rest of his life working constantly. He put up 93 deacons and priests and worked so hard for the church for the remainder of his life. On his mitre, there was a crown of thorns, and which I thought was an interesting connection between, there's all different kinds of crowns in this world. And in a commemorative poem, they write of it, of this, his bishop's mitre, this mitre with its crown of thorns, its cross upon the front, not for a proud adorning worn, but for a battle's brunt. So while Seabury was against the Revolutionary War, he was not afraid to fight a very, very difficult battle and a devoted battle to create this church here in America and to get it launched in such an extraordinary way. So I'm recording this actually on, it's about 6:30 on Election Day, and the sun's just coming up here in Kent. The polls are just opening. So I think there's something about the story of Samuel Seabury that is a really timely reminder that both at the beginning of the Episcopal Church in Connecticut and still today, it is an institution that people from very different political spectrums can love together.